Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Journey of an Awakening Spirit. This is Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and we're streaming on the Bold Brave TV network. This space was created to remind you that you are not alone. And no matter what your past looks like or what you're facing today, you hold the power to shift your life. We've all walked through pain, loss, betrayal, loneliness, frustration, and hopelessness. But your story doesn't end there. This show is about turning those dark moments around into dawn. And it's about rediscovering the truth of who you are beneath the pressure, performance, and expectations. Maybe you've achieved success, but deep down still feel isolated, angry, or even like giving up. You long to be seen, and not for the titles and accolades, but for your truth. You want to be known and celebrated for the real you and not the version of yourself that's been performing just to survive. Perhaps you sat quietly listening to what sets your soul on fire, only to be met with fear, guilt, shame, and frustration. You try to push through, but the old stories whisper, you're not enough. And just like that, you freeze. You've read the books, gone to the workshops, and implemented strategies, but something still feels off. That cycle of hope, followed by disappointment, keeps repeating. And the voice inside says, maybe this is for everyone else, but not you. But it's not. As a certified transformational coach and the creator of the Soul Journey program, I help you to reconnect with your authentic self and align with your soul vision. I give you the tools to remember who you really are, powerful, worthy, and whole. Each week on the show, we begin with the sound of the tuning forks to bring energies of love, joy, and happiness, and setting the tone for the deep healing and soulful conversations. So let's begin. This is Felix. He has to be on the show today. Little challenging. Excuse me. So you're doing everything right. The affirmations, the healing work, the journaling, yet nothing is moving. You feel invisible, tired, and off track. And what if I told you that your stuckness is sacred and there's a deeper reason Spirit has you paused right now? We often misinterpret stillness or resistance as failure. And when nothing is moving, Spirit is often moving the most beneath the surface. And that is something to actually remember. Because, okay, I got a very grumpy cat. He's been to the doctor because Marco and him got into a big fight. And he got a nice little owie that he's on antibiotics. So he's grumpy. So I might have to put him down. Anyways, sorry about that. I just have to let you know, because if you're hearing him, it's because he's grumpy and he hurts. Anyways, when I get into the silence and stillness, which is where I've been, and just so you all know, my father did pass away last Wednesday morning, so that did happen. And it brought in a whole different set of stillness and quietness that I didn't expect. Now, my father's death and passing is something, okay, I'm going to put him down. Okay, there you go. Sorry about that. Brought in a whole new set of stillness because it's a very complicated situation that with my father, and it was 40 years of forgiveness of everything that had happened to me as a child, and I hadn't seen him in 20, almost 30 years. So it was very interesting, and it still is interesting. But what I'm finding, and what Spirit informed me of yesterday, I think it was when I woke up, it said, you don't have to worry about not feeling safe anymore because the perpetrator's dead. And that brought in a whole new level of what I've been feeling. And I know that I'm going to be with whatever this grieving process is that I'm going through, but I also know that, excuse me, I also know that within this emotion, there's going to be something even deeper and bigger coming up, like becoming more whole because of that safety feeling that I have. And I know that there's something coming through because I did an interview this morning very quickly for digital marketing organization that I'm in, and I wanted to just be really upbeat and positive, and I felt that way. I actually feel that way, and it's amazing because it's raining outside and I feel better today than I have in a week, but it's all good. But the whole point is that realizing that it just kind of threw me for a loop. And sometimes that's what life does. Life throws us for a loop. And it's not that we're a failure. I can't tell you how many times Spirit has protected my butt with my business of awakening spirit, and then discovering that it was so beautifully orchestrated. I remember one time when I had a manufacturing company, and all of a sudden I'm frustrated and I'm not getting product. Well, it ended up that company ended up getting the products became very contaminated. And so I had to find somebody else, and I found actually a way better manufacturing company. But I remember just feeling angry, and then what was wrong with me, and did I make a bad decision? And no, I made a good decision. It was a good company. It was just that their practices needed work. And so that's what they had to do. I remember how many times did I have to go back to work because I couldn't get my business off the ground. Well, when you're a new business, you do have to go back to work sometimes to still pay the bills as you're growing and evaluating, and always thinking I was a failure because I had to do that when I wasn't a failure. There was nothing failing about what it was. What it was an opportunity to get the word out more about what I'm doing. And I also made connections to help my business progress. So we are so wired to think we fail. When we don't fail, they're just learning experiences. And that's when we need to stop taking all of that and internalizing that as shame or degrade ourselves in some form or another. The void process is just part of the spiritual awakening, and we don't know what we don't know. And so when we are in this quiet process where we are stopping and we're not moving and we're in the sacred pause, we just need to be in it and trust the process, because usually something's coming up when that's happening. And like I'm saying, like this whole thing with my father, I mean, I feel like, my God, since January, I feel like I've just been in one holding phase after another, after another, after another. And you know what? Every holding phase, and I come out for maybe 5-10 minutes, in my opinion, is how it feels. Come out for a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, and then you're back in another one. But what I've come to realize is that some of the events that I did at the end of March, really, things happened. I felt things, I experienced things, my mind expanded. There were a lot of things that changed for me, and I didn't know what it was, but I was so blasted by the information that was coming on. I was going up on a higher vibrational frequency, and I'm also going, whoa, 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 at the same time. And not that I was stopping the process, but just realizing that there was so much coming in and I needed to decompress from that. And that's all okay. And then when I think I'm ready to come out in the month of April, I come out and I'm on this diet and everything's happening and my body's changing. And I'm like, wow, there's something more going on here. And then my father dies, and it's like, whoa, okay, this is a year of change for me. What all that looks like right now, I don't know. All I know is that I am starting to finally move and process through what I've had to process through, move through anger, move through whatever else I was feeling. Sal and I are taking our relationship to a whole new level. I mean, there's just so many things that are It's a course correct. And just look at it that way, that maybe this is nothing more than a course correct. And there's always a hidden purpose behind the pause. How many times can it just be that you're in an incubation period, you're in the sacred pause, it's the pregnant pause, as I like to call it, or you're in a redirect. And I think right now, parts of me are going in a redirect, and Felix is wanting to come back up, and I'm not going to let him, but he'll probably find a way up. Anyways, yep, here he comes. Come on. So, a lot of it is just how are we looking at things and how do we intend to change our mindset around it? Okay, I got a cat on my lap and I'm too close to the desk. Okay, I'm struggling. God, what a day for me on this show. Sorry, folks. Okay, so the higher consciousness slows down when things start to realign and you are on your soul path. I find that to be very true, because how many times have I stopped long enough and it's like this redirect comes in and everything shifts, or I go up into a higher vibrational frequency. Sometimes we're going up into higher vibrational frequencies and the only way to navigate them is to stop and just feel, because higher vibrational frequencies are not a mind thing. They don't come from your mind. They come from your heart. You have to feel your way through vibrational frequencies. When I talked about the difference between 3D and 5D, the whole point of that is that 3D is a logical experience that we have. 5D is remembering that it's a heartfelt experience. So I would say when things are slowing down, you are realigning. I know that I'm realigning. I know that I'm going deeper inside of me, because when I don't have to feel that I have to protect myself anymore, that's a whole game changer for me. I don't even know how to navigate that, because this is such a strong habit that I created. But the thing is in these dreams of my father attacking me, I mean, they were in my dreams, they were in my waking state. How many times did my family give my father my phone number, or he stole my phone number, whatever it was that man did. And I was always constantly having to protect myself, and now I don't have to. So now it's like, okay, well, let's reassess. What does this really look like for me in this new world? Because now this is a new world for me. And it's pretty exciting, but it doesn't mean I know what I'm doing. So I'm going to take my time. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to navigate through this, and I'm going to find my way, and I'm going to have that much more power and control in my life. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. Welcome back, everyone, to the Journey of an Awakening Spirit. This is Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and we're streaming on the Bold Brave TV network. So your stuckness is actually really a sacred gestation. And you could be feeling fatigue. You could be disinterested in old goals. You're sensitive. There's an emotional release going on. And believe me, I can't even tell you the stuff that has come up for me in the last week of just everything. I mean, at first I was sleeping, now I'm not sleeping, and I, do my grapefruit juice and all the different things that help me to fall asleep, but I'm not tired. But I also know that I'm not interested in some of the old things that I used to be interested in, and I'm making a shift, and I'm watching this shift starting to happen at the same time. And there's also an emotional release. And believe me, when you grieve, there's a lot of stuff that comes up. Now, I'm not grieving like I did with my mom, because a mother's grief is totally different, because you're actually physically connected to the woman. And that's just such a different painful place than where I am with my father. But I also notice that in the rawness of my emotions is when I'm going to start moving forward, because I haven't been in front of the camera doing a lot of the work that I normally do in front of the camera in the last month mainly. And I'm going to come out and start coming back into that, because I really believe that if I come out in this full vulnerability, that there's going to be a deeper connection that I'm able to make with people. And I have no issue showing vulnerability, because death is a deal that most people don't ever want to talk about, and yet we need to. And the pause doesn't mean that it's punishment. It's just preparation. And it's all, again, changing of your mindset. So I want to talk about the spaces between the stories. And this is something that I just learned about yesterday. So I think this is going to be really appropriate. And the phrase, the spaces between the stories, is a concept that was popularized by author and philosopher Charles Eisenstein. And it refers to a powerful, often uncomfortable transitional phase in a person's life or a society's evolution, a time when the old story has fallen apart, but the new story hasn't fully emerged yet. Now, this is where I feel like I am. So it's the spaces in between where the identity, beliefs, or roles you used to live by no longer fit. But the new version of you, or the new vision of you, of who you're becoming, isn't fully clear yet. So you feel lost, you feel disoriented, and you even feel empty. And yet something deeper is gestating. So the spaces in between, the space between the stories is a sacred ground. And it's where your soul is rearranging things. It's shedding what no longer aligns and planting seeds for your next evolution. But from the outside, it can look like nothing is happening. And that's why people often misinterpret that they're stuck or they're off track. This is a sacred cocoon, and it's not failure. It's the fertile soil of your next chapter. And I love that, because that's what it feels like to me. Is like today, I felt like when I woke up, instead of that gloom and heaviness that was inside my body, I felt lighter, like I finally released something. And I was talking to my business partner yesterday about a lot of things. And we talked about me coming back from, well, what does it look like when you're not protecting yourself anymore? What does that new version of you look like? And I can't answer that question. I really can't. But today I feel a joy that who I really am has that opportunity to finally protect itself, because that man is gone. He's not here to harm me. I'm not picking up on his thoughts anymore. I'm not sensing any of that. And I can't tell you what a relief that is to have those moments. So again, here we go. Now we have soul contracts, and sometimes we forget that we signed them. Now, I know that I signed this contract with my dad and my mom. I know exactly what I did with those two people, and my entire family for that matter. But when we forget that we do have soul agreements that we created, that some of our paths are intentionally blocked. Now, I've always felt that I've had a lot of blocks in my life, and I think I needed to just stop and slow down, get to where I am today, because now that freedom is here, where am I going? Because all I've ever done was, what would it be like if I had money, and live with that? How does that feel? How does it marrying that? Because money's nothing more than energy. And saying I want $1 million, big deal. Anybody can say that, but what are you going to do and what are you going to change to get that? Because it's an energy frequency. And I had to look at a lot of things like that. I had to look at, well, what do I really want? Do I really want fame and fortune? Do I really want to have a big community, or do I want to stay alone and isolated and safe? And right now I'm exploring that bigger side of me, because I don't feel like I have to protect myself anymore. And don't get me wrong, I love my quietness. I love my stillness. I love being where I am, where I isolate, because I'm very much an introvert, but I can be extroverted very easily, but it takes so much more energy. And so I'm wanting to find what that real balance is now that I'm not using certain things to hide behind anymore. And spiritual timing is not a logical thing. It's layered with lessons, healing, and readiness. And I cannot emphasize that enough, that when you're in those quiet, sacred pauses, really ask, why am I here? What is it that I'm here to learn? And how do I need to navigate this? Because a lot of times we just want to beat ourselves up for things that aren't even happening with us. And it's just trusting in the process, because this is your life. You created every step of your life, and your guides are there guiding you. Even though you don't remember it, doesn't mean it's not true. And if you stop in those quiet moments and reflect back and look at the thread that's going through your life, you start coming more at peace with where you are and trusting a process. Because when the magic starts to happen, you could never create that. No matter what you did in your life, you cannot create the magic when you allow spirit to work with you and co-create with them. So many times when I thought I was stuck, or I thought I wasn't moving forward, or I was a failure, when I look back at it, I could see how much I catapulted from that change in my life. Here's my grumpy cat again. He might growl. He's in pain. And when you really do have to pay attention to where you are, and you really do have to look at your life as you're moving forward. Because I know in this craziness that we're in with this world right now, I don't know anyone who's not feeling stress or fearful or anxious. Those are real emotions, and those are real out there. But again, what I tell you is it's all in your mind. This world is an illusion, and it's all done by design. We all agreed to it. We all wanted to learn something from it, but we also can rise above it. And that was probably the biggest thing that I've learned over the years, is that every time that I was put on pause or redirected, or something changed that I didn't expect to change, because I guarantee you, I certainly never expected to get divorced. And that was a big deal for me. And when that happened, it took a long time for me to come out of that side of it, because I was married for life. It didn't matter that he sucked and our relationship was bad, because he was so angry and jealous and possessive and everything else. The whole point of that is that I didn't expect that to change. And yet, thank God, it was the best thing in the world that could have happened for me, was to walk away from him, because I wouldn't be here today in doing the things that I'm doing if it wasn't for him and the divorce. So thank God. I mean, it was a gift, and everything that we do and happens in our life is a gift, and you have to trust that process. And we all have seasons. We all go up and down, everything, we ebb and flow. And when we're flowing, we love it. When we're ebbing, we don't. Well, you know what? The ebb is part of the flow. The yin and the yang, it's part of what it is. The sun, the moon. We have this all over the place in our lives, and we have to find peace and just trust in the peace of it and not judge any of it, because we're so judgmental. I mean, as a society, we really do judge way too much. And I was included in that a lot. I still do, but nothing like what I used to. Thank God, I'm getting better, and I'm just going in the flow, so to speak. And sometimes being lost is what leads you to being found by the truest part of yourself. And that's what I think is kind of cool, because how many times have I felt like I was lost, I didn't know where I was going, and yet I kept trusting the process and just putting one step forward. And I found myself, but I found myself in a way that I didn't expect. I found a different side of myself I didn't know was there. We're multifaceted people. We really are. And if we can learn to take all of everything so-called with a grain of salt to the best of your ability, sit back, get off the stage and watch it unfold, then you start watching the magic happen. And some practical and intuitive tools to navigate through this foggy time is surrender. And my version of surrender, which took a lifetime to learn this word, because it was one of those words that I could not grasp, because I was such a control freak, and I was going to control every aspect of my life and every person in my life to the best of my ability. And I fought my life and on levels beyond levels. And when I finally understood what surrender meant to me, of do what I can, have a big goal, do what I can, take the baby steps, and stop and wait. until I get a message to the next one. To me, that was surrender. That's co-creation with spirit. That is my form of awakening. That's what I've learned the most about who I am, was when I started co-creating, getting out of the driver's seat and going in the back of the car and letting spirit navigate my life, because they're the ones in control of it anyways. I guide what I want, and then they're like, okay, well, let's go do this. And usually what I want is what I've always wanted, because how many times did I negotiate with God? Well, if you just let me do this, I'll do this when I get older. How many times did I do that? I can't tell you, too many. And it didn't matter. I was always moving in that direction, even if I thought I was bargaining with God along it. Then also go out in nature. I mean, nature is probably one of the most healing things that I have found in my life, is because I realize that I'm part of this world. And nature knows how to coexist with everything, but we don't. And so what a beautiful way to learn about who we are. If you watch how nature operates, that's how we humans are supposed to operate. But we have this right of free will and free choice that I think we abuse on many times. I mean, coming around and killing people is not an option. Beating people up, raping people, that's not right. But yet that's what we do. And that needs to stop. And when that's happening, they're here to learn a lesson. I get that. There's karmic debt. I get that. There's soul contracts. I get that. But when do we stop? When do we start evolving? There's enough help out there and people wanting to help other people to rise above this animalistic part of our personalities. And let's start doing that. Meditation for clarity versus answers. How many times do we go into meditation looking for answers instead of just... Meditation isn't about asking. Meditation is about listening. You have a question and you go in there and you just ask for clarity. And sometimes it's all about changing your question on what's happening for you. So like in journaling, you want to do journal prompts? Do this in meditation too. What am I being protected from? Or what part of me is not ready yet? Those are powerful questions to ask. Because how many times do we take a victim role? Or it's being done to me. Well, no, it's not. Because a lot of times there's a reason why we're being done. I can't tell you how many times I've had dreams with my father attacking. And I always thought, okay, is it time for him to die now? This last time when I actually had that dream, it never even occurred to me that he was dying. What's even more bizarre is my sister calls me that last Friday, tells me that my sister in California is saying she's really worried about my dad. And of course, my other sister in Texas is saying, well, he's cried wolf one too many times. I don't know if I believe that right now. But she said the only thing is that Nicole was very concerned. And I said, okay. And I let it go because I don't know any of this, don't really care one way or another. I just hope the man's at peace. And I did. I wished him well. I wished him peace. And I helped him transition to the best of my ability at that point. And I said, I actually hope he finds his way back home. That's what I do. And I do. And I meant that. And I forgave him. Because I don't want to live with the angst. I don't want to live with regret. I don't want to live with any of that. And I've seen too many people that did not make peace with their parents before they pass, and then they pass, and then they spend the rest of their life in guilt and shame and trauma. That wasn't going to happen. I wasn't going to play that game. So when I was asked, when you're asking, what am I being protected from in the stillness, I didn't ask those questions, but it was so fast in these last 5 days of my father that it was okay because he had already stopped eating and drinking. And he gets into hospice on Monday. My sister thinks he'll be dead by Tuesday, and he's dead by 8:00 on Wednesday morning. Okay, that was very fast. I mean, most people don't die that fast, but he was already in the dying process. And so when I think he came to me those 2 weeks before, was just letting me know he's leaving. And it was his last ditch attempt to probably scare the hell out of me. And he did. He got me a little bit. Not that he normally does in my dreams, but he did this time. And I let it happen. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. Welcome back, everyone, to the Journey of an Awakening Spirit. This is Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and we're streaming on the Bold Brave TV network. So I'm going to invite you to refrain that the pause as divine protection, because we are protected. And we may not think that we are, but we really are. And we just really need to start finding peace in the ebb and flow of life. Things are happening, things are changing, the world is crazy. I give you that. I mean, there's so much uncertainty in the world. And regardless of how uncertain the world feels right now, it doesn't have to be your world any more than it's going to be my world. I still really love when Bob Proctor said, "Why don't you become your own economy?" And I love that idea, because we, each and every single one of us, can become our own economy. And I know with the invention of AI and how much it's taking over, 300 million jobs are going to be lost within the next year. I mean, that's huge. That's a very huge number. And what are you going to do? Are you going to be the victim of losing a job over AI, or are you going to take control of your life and find why you're here and what your purpose is? I know that most people don't think that they have, they just don't, they think that they're a victim. They're not victims. You're not a victim. You never were a victim. I mean, I've changed my story from when I was 16 years old and went to an Edgar Cayce meditation that changed the trajectory of my life. Now I'm going back to 11 when my father beat me and taking it there, because that's a bigger version of who I am, and sharing that story, because how many of us have been subject to abuse? We're all traumatized. Every single one of us has post-traumatic in some form or another, and we received it when we were children. And it's time to start working through that. Yes, our world could look traumatic. It could feel traumatic. And we've survived it. That's the one thing, if you look back in history, no matter what event was going on in the world, people still kept moving forward. They still kept getting married. They still kept having babies. They still kept having families. They still kept doing whatever it was that they were doing, regardless of what was going on around them, between wars and abuse and the lords of the serfs and, whatever it is. All that still goes on no matter what. Life still goes on, because we are stronger and bigger than we realize. We are spiritual beings navigating a human experience, and we know that there is no death. Our bodies will die, but we don't die. And that's the thing, that we have to restart remembering who we truly are, because the minute we start remembering, and we're going to go through hell, I promise you that. This waking up process is no laughing matter. I mean, this is hard friggin' work to wake up and remember. But if you don't like where your life is, then change it. And when you change that, your world will change. But so many people who don't like their life will refuse to change until life does to them, and it forces a change. People don't want confrontation. Well, guess what? We're confrontational people. I mean, just being in each other's space can be confronting. Having a conversation can be that. But you know what? What's your attitude behind it? Are you sitting here trying to convince somebody to be who you are, or to think like you, or to feel like you, instead of acknowledging that they might have a different perspective? And maybe if you listen to them, maybe you might grow and evolve just a little bit. I can't tell you how many times people used to say that I was so like, it's like this, it's like this, it's like this. And I just knew, I knew. Somebody would come in and say something a little different and it made sense. And then I would change and go, no, it's like this, it's like this, it's like this. I mean, that was just how it was, because I allowed people to give me another version or opinion of something that I was pretty dogmatic about. And when people did that, it was like it expanded my world. I grew. I didn't always feel stuck. Yes. Do you have moments of stuckness? Yes. But are you really stuck? No, it's just what you think you are. You're just lost for a brief moment. How many times have I gone up on the evolutionary path of frequency and going, I have no idea where I am. And you're navigating and you don't know. I mean, when I bought this house, I mean, I went a year not knowing where I was until it came out, but I kept moving forward. But I had to ground myself to be able to pay my bills because I couldn't even pay my bills. It was that bad at one point. I didn't look at it as a negative. I just knew something was going on and just trust the process and keep moving forward. And that's all we can do in life, is just one foot in front of the other, whatever that is. I know that on this diet, I got off these pills for a little while because I had to, because I got tired of my stomach hurting. But I realized that part of my stomach hurting was because of how I was not navigating and assimilating the knowledge that I was receiving. And then what was weird is a couple of days ago, I had this dream that I got all this great food and I put it on, and food is knowledge in a dream. And then you want to eat it because you're taking it in. And I had all this beautiful food, and I'm walking to my table, and all of a sudden it was like somebody came up and flipped my plate. Now the plate's still in my hand and all the food's on the ground, and I was all bummed out and depressed. I woke up bummed out and kind of depressed, like, well, what was that about? I have all this knowledge, but I'm not assimilating. I'm not taking it in. But then the next question that I asked was, or thought was, maybe this is not the right information I need to take in. And now, of course, my dad had died. And it could be part of that whole thing too, was that whatever I thought was, or based on that, was wrong information for me. And maybe that's why the food fell off the plate and I had to go back and get more food. But this time it was going to be different because all the food had changed in the dream. And then I woke up. So I took this to mean that things are changing for me. And so what I thought was going to give me what I wanted isn't. And today I got so much more clarity on that by having this conversation, this interview, and then talking to Mike briefly of, trying to make that connection and just saying, I'm really sorry, but I can't make the connection yet, because it's like I forgot, because this whole thing just blew up in front of my face. And I said, so what I want to do is let me just do what I need to do and then see if it gets addressed. And if not, then we'll have a conversation. And it was all good. I mean, it's just all good. And I just trusted a process in a way that I didn't know how to trust at that moment, because I'm in uncharted waters. I really, truly am in uncharted waters. Both my parents are dead. I can feel them on the other side. I'm having some of the weirdest things coming up in my life, in my thoughts, and from my previous experiences, but they're not something that I need to hold on to. It's something that I'm seeing, I'm looking at, and then I'm releasing them because I don't need them anymore. And that's what I'm doing. That's how I'm getting unstuck, is just being quiet, being still, because the easiest way for me to navigate this complicated grieving process about my father was just, and my business partner suggested I do this, and I was doing it anyways, but just spend an hour or two a day doing nothing. No phone, no computer, no doing any work, no nothing, just be with you doing nothing. And I have done that every single day for the last week, an hour to 2 hours or more doing nothing, and just being in this heavy, weird, dense feeling inside my body. And I'm not crying. Sometimes I feel like it, but it's like, he doesn't deserve the tears. But it's not about the tears. It's about finding myself in a way that I haven't found myself, that that with layers upon layers upon layers of protection. What do you do? I'm releasing that to find who am I and blossom from there. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. Welcome back, everyone, to the Journey of an Awakening Spirit. This is Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and we're streaming on the Bold Brave TV network. So what if being stuck was Spirit's way of keeping you safe while the path cleared ahead of you? Isn't that an interesting thing to think about? That's how I see what's happening with me, as I feel like the path is clearing. I've been stuck, so to speak, but not really, but just dealing with certain things that didn't feel right, and just feeling a little grudge and little angst and anger and upsetness. And then it was, okay, I'm going to feel it. If you feel it, just feel it. And it's okay to feel angry at somebody or something that's not working out or something you ask, and let your limiting beliefs of nobody cares and nobody loves me and, whatever that crap is that I do. And I do it too, is like, well, I'm not being seen, valued, and heard, and nobody cares, and blah, blah, blah. And I went through this. Okay. And when you're dealing with grief, everything magnetizes. Okay. So I looked at it, I felt it, I experienced it, and I let it go. I realized that, grief is causing more intensity in my emotions than I would normally give it. And I also realized that, well, what if, Kath, what if that the reason you didn't get what you were asking for was because it's not right and it needs to be modified? Duh. That made sense. And so I ended up dealing with that. And I'm like, okay, I get it. And I went back and I looked at what I was complaining in my head about. And I was like, yep, it's not right. You're right. It's not right. And so I ended up re-recording something. And I'm okay with it because I didn't like the first version. Then the next version I thought was awesome. But I couldn't get what I wanted. And so I just re-recorded it today. And I haven't listened to it, but I felt really good about it, that it's what I want to do. So sometimes that quietness and that pause, it is clearing the way. It is, because I move through it. And it's like, now all of a sudden, it's like I'm watching the doors open. I'm starting to find that part that I felt like I was kind of confused and lost in, of like, how do I make this work? How do I do this? What about this? And stepping into it, understanding, because, I keep talking to you guys and I'm looking at forming a community, and I am very much there. I just haven't sat down. I've got the name, I've got the mission, I've got all sorts of things set up for it. I just don't know the mechanics of it yet, as far as how that sets up. And so that's what I'm researching. But when I was telling somebody about this today, I said, oh, I think I'll do a community. And it was like, ooh, I'm not doing that. No, that scare me. And I knew that I had to jump into it, because anytime I do that ooh is like, oh my God, this isn't about an expansion for me, and makes me uncomfortable. And what I've also found out when I'm in that place, that whatever happens is like, wow, like I couldn't have done it any differently or any better, because every time I've had that, oh, I don't think so feeling, moving into that and stepping into it has accelerated me and my growth, and things that have happened that I would never have happened. And because I don't have to feel scared or unprotected anymore, that creating a community would probably be one of the best things I could do, because people scared me and they're not scaring me anymore. And I don't feel like I need to protect myself. So what a beautiful way to do is create that community of like-minded people like me and like you who are listening to the show, where you have a safe place where you can open up and talk about all sorts of things. And I have, a woman that I know who has created a massive community in a very short period of time. And it's impressive as hell that she's done this. And she's an introvert. So it's like, well, there's no excuse for me. But I'm just saying, it's just when you feel that, oh, I don't think so, jump into it, lean into it, because there's always something more there for you. So I do have a gift today, and it should be in the show notes. And if it's not now, it will be, is get back into the flow, which is 5 soul aligned steps to move forward with clarity. And these are just guidelines to help you move into a new direction, to help you get through the stuckness so you don't feel stuck for so long. And I created this actually yesterday for you, and it's just a download PDF. I mean, you're going to get the link is there, and it's a Google Docs PDF. And there's no email or anything required. I just want to be able to have you guys feel that you can do things without always feeling like somebody's trying to pitch you. And I just want to do this as a gift because I think feeling stuck is something that we don't need to feel. And all we have to do is just change our mindset around it. So with that, I want to thank you all for being here. And if you found any value or you know this could help somebody, feel free to share the link with others and leave a review. And if you sign up and you subscribe to my channel, you'll know every time something new is coming out with the show and that type of thing. And if you're craving real transformation and want guidance to becoming your authentic self, you can reach me out at bravetv at KathleenMFlanagan.com. And you can also go to my KathleenMFlanagan.com website and sign up for a 15-minute free consultation as well if you need some guidance to help navigate some of the choppy waters you might be in. You can also explore my award-winning Dancing Souls trilogy, The Call, The Dark Night of the Soul, and Awakened. And they're available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and KathleenMFlanagan.com. And you can also explore all the list of services and tools that I have provided. And I do have that free gift of the de-stress meditation. It's 3 minutes. It's perfect. You can do it before you go to bed, when you wake up, whenever you feel the need to. It's free. Again, no email required. It's my gift to you. And it will just help you to ground and to heal. And that concludes the show for today. And I want to thank you again for being here with me. I do appreciate it. And I hope you all have a fabulous week. And from my heart to yours, bless you.